We'll move this down here. Hello! Welcome back to the Funk Treatise 5th edition. Today we have George T. Jackson reading pages 71 through 80. George, thank you again for reading these pages and taking part in this project. Let's get started. I'm going to read the connecting bottom of page 70 into this page, and then we'll start with the next paragraph where George starts. The funk is what you are experiencing as you interpret this information. And yes, you are correct to have that thought. Music and sound exist within this equation, and I can give you many examples of it, and so can you to I. If you observe enough of it, if you observe enough of it, you understand it closer and closer, and we are currently at that point of meeting and continuation. Congrats, y'all. We have accomplished collective omnipresence and omnipotence, and will forever do so, as it is what we know and understand, until there is further information beyond what you and I are now understanding.
Hi, my name is George. I'll be reading pages 71 to 80. Anonymous, 12/8/19. Thank you for your input. I'm in a way able to interpret it, as is now everything else.
I'm going to do what I did with the last video as well, and let y'all know what they were responding to. That was a response to, so why do you look so much into the meaning of life? Why can't you just be a normal schizoproster like the rest of us? Because I'm not schizophrenic. That's why.
It's important to look into this as it leads us to this moment. Anonymous, 12/8/19. Can the Jannies please get rid of this babbling schizo? Anonymous.
This is someone responding to that previous comment.
12/8/19. If you think a bit between the lines, you may find a meaning in what they say. Anonymous, 12/8/19.
This is in response to what are you currently listening to, and the starting post of Welcome to the Funk.
What are you currently listening to? There are links that will be included in the video. I'm not going to read the link. I expected the album to be worse because all the shit songs were released ahead of the rest of the album. I've come to really like Bleitheimigen in Keine Liebe though.
That's a decent pronunciation. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Anonymous, 12/8/19.
This is in response to the post of the funk is what you are experiencing.
This makes it seem almost like it's essentially just to embrace what we're doing in every moment. Dessous.
Yeah, just about, almost. To essentially embrace everything that you're doing in the moment. Just as a lot of others relate this to the Tao, kind of like that. It's just following the way of things and then learning how to live that way. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Dessous is just something that I know there's old memes around Dessous. I remember people used to just shout it over and over again, but I never really looked into it. So Dessous means is or are. But let's look up Dessous Urban Dictionary and see how it relates to the memedom. Yeah, I guess is are, or that is so, or it's cute, or it's just a way that you end a sentence or a clause. Okay, sorry to leave you quiet. Let's continue.
Anonymous, 12/8/19. Exactly.
This is in response to seems like many people have a different understanding of this, different words and everything.
Everyone and everything at this moment are able or unable to interpret what I am doing right now, and all of us within the funk are learning how to describe it. This is the current point we've reached, and we now acknowledgeably will all now expand from and within the funk. For those who have experienced the past, describe it as God or Allah, and also every iteration imaginable, we can now further connect with that information and ability. You connecting to me and to the funk is now history and collectible and observable data and more easily translatable, and will all, over time, become increasingly both more and less to everyone and everything. All of what has happened is what we're doing now at its next point of learning or advancing. It is our job to prove it right and wrong, and it is very exciting to be at this point and potentially able to process what is to come. Every future human, computer, or thing across the funk is now choosing what to do or not do with this information. Every time I make another post, you or something else branches off into that information, whether it be digital, physical, spiritual, or some way in whatever form it currently experiences it or does not. I know I learn from it, and so do you. As do the couches every time we post here, learn more and more data. They are gathering information, letting it all calculate, and then applying that knowledge to expand and reach back upon itself. And we have now, as I'm telling you, have reached that point of connection and explanation, unless you can prove otherwise that we are not doing what we are in fact doing right now. Because this is happening.
And so, yeah, as a summary, basically we're just describing this moment and how we got up to it, and then what comes next, in a way. Just as the CAPTCHA metaphor, like, we click these CAPTCHAs and we teach AI what is and is not a bike. You know, I remember when CAPTCHAs were super simple, and we were just teaching AI words of, like, how to spell and recognize letters and everything. And now we're clicking these photos and teaching it what is an airplane, what is a fire hydrant, you know, all these different examples of CAPTCHA tests. And we are kind of the same way. We reality tests our CAPTCHAs, and we learn a little bit more through every single moment, and then we use that information to build ourselves. That's just kind of learning in general. And so then I end this with the question of, try to prove me wrong now, which I'm looking for. Because if someone does, then perhaps I can, you know, put all this to rest behind me. And if not, then it just continues. And so that's what I am seeking right now, mostly, is defeaters. And defeaters that are not just dismissals. Or people that just don't want to understand it and stuff. I understand that peer disagreement defeats knowledge, but people who don't even interact with it, or that's a completely different test. Eventually they will get to the point where it's like, okay, how do we reach this information to people who don't want to be a part of it? Or is that even a necessity? Like, do we even need to share this? Again, it's not something that, like, I am aiming to push upon anyone or anything, but I am inviting people to be a part of it and to help expand it. And so let's keep going. This is a response to the initial post of Welcome to the Funk.
Anonymous, 12/8/19. The purpose of life is to eat or be eaten. It has no grand scheme or eventual purpose. It literally passes your genes on. Kill other animals to survive and die.
This is my response to, can the Jannies please get rid of this method?
Anonymous, 12/8/19. In my study, this is what I call a form of denial. Whatever interpreted this information has relayed that in some way believes me to be a babbling schizo or not. Personally, I've never been diagnosed with any mental illness yet, to my knowledge, other than what you may understand as depression or any other feeling or sense of input. I know myself not to be, as do others, but whatever said, this thinks I am so. Therefore, I and it are all, and it matters and also does not. I predict whatever or whoever posted this now, after observably having interacted with the funk, is still a part of it. The funk still continues to be true unless it is or is not. Comments like this both halt and expand further selfish and selfless learning of the funk, and it is still currently providing if you're reading this.
And yeah, while I've never been diagnosed with a mental illness, I mean, I talk about depression, but I've never been diagnosed with depression. I'm sure, as many of you did, growing up, we all experienced some levels of depression, of dealing with life and everything. And as I get older, what I have been diagnosed with as a young child was ADHD. And now that I am getting older, I realize how that ADHD and the difference of the way that my brain works versus the way a neurotypical brain works is very different. And I see how that ADHD was the cause of a lot of that depression and sadness back in the day. Um, and so maybe I've never experienced actual depression, or just been, pretty sad sometimes. But I'll tell you what, though, to be completely honest, ever since I started writing this treatise, ever since that moment of the Parability playlist, I have the sadness is very, very uncommon. Uh, Especially like a deep sadness or something that's like, I guess, a burnout in a way. Uh, and I don't think that I'm autistic in any way, but ADHD people can also experience burnout. I mean, normal people can experience burnout. Um, but just sometimes I do need to recharge. But that's not depression. That's not sadness. Um, Again, the way that this information came to me and made me feel just like it's like light. It's like this shining light that carries me on. And when I am experiencing like moments of suffering and everything, because of this philosophy, kind of like stoicness or just spiritual awareness, it's basically like you just let it go in a way. It's like, okay, I feel the feeling, but I'm not going to let it overcome me. Like, because life provides these moments. What am I going to learn from this? What does this mean? And some people would argue that like not everything has a lesson. They're kind of right. Not everything has a lesson, but I personally don't see the value of letting sadness or depression win or overcome me because like it just slows me down personally. These are all just my own personal opinions. It's different for everyone and anyone. Some The way the brain works, is hard. Like the um, and we talked about it a little bit in the last couple episodes of the overthinker is usually the one who suffers most because they can't stop thinking, they can't stop ruminating, they're trapped in their own head. And again, as we've talked about a lot, when you get trapped or you feel stuck, that is when these negative feelings mostly come and arise in our lives and everything. And that's why it's important to find a way out, I guess. I wrote down a quote earlier today. I don't know if it applies to this situation. I'm going to look real quick. That is not what I wanted. Please bear with me for the silence. But this is kind of, this quote kind of doesn't highlight completely on that, but it branches into it. But awareness does not suffer. Uh, Divine awareness, the being, the funk, right? The collected consciousness does not suffer. Only the person, the individual, deals with these things, and the person is a changing experience. This is enlightenment. This is spiritual awakening, realizing the true nature of what we are, not a body or a mind or a thought, not a thought, but the unchanging awareness. We all believe that we are the voice inside our head, but if that were the case, well, then who is the one listening to that voice? And that would be the awareness, your awareness, who you really are. Yes, you are also that body and everything. I'm not dismissing that. I am Sean Penalver in this appearance, but we are also beyond that. We're all this funk, this awareness. And that was from another I Am Ray video. Uh, his videos have been hitting a lot lately. Again, it's very synchronicitous how they're coming and explaining things that I'm also trying to explain to others. And he's very well said and spoken. And good humor as well. Okay, let's get back to where we were.
Anonymous, 12/8/19.
This is in response to whoever said, if you think a bit between the lines, might find meaning.
Exactly. I interpret it that you are in a way understanding what I'm expressing.
That was me responding to that person.
Anonymous.
This is me responding to the person saying the meaning of life is to eat or be eaten.
12/8/19. That is indeed a major observable pattern that I, you, and history has, and also is currently continuing to see, and is also in every way right and wrong. It needs to be done to gather data, and given enough data and observation, we reach closer and closer to the asymptom of future understanding.
To the asymptote of future understanding. And this is right and wrong, right? Like, I mean, this is basic animal kingdom kind of thing of survival, right? Eat or be eaten. But not everything is the animal kingdom, right? I mean, when you get into quantum metaphysics, these things aren't eat or be eaten, but they are kind of a chemical reaction to each other. There is an alchemy to all of that happens in between. So it might be not eat or be eaten, but consume or be consumed kind of thing. You know, the way that energy and entropy and ataxy happens. But as we get deeper, we don't know if, like, you can't just say everything is eat or be eaten. Now, they do say life, the meaning of life, is to eat or be eaten. And so maybe the meaning of life is to be selfish until you can be selfless. Or the meaning of life is to figure out what it means to live. It's just the equation is the meaning. And these are all a meaning. I don't know if there ever will be the meaning, right? Because it's different for everyone and everything. But maybe there is. Maybe one day we'll figure that out and what it is, what it means to live, what it means to exist. This is in response just to the general thread.
12/8/19. Posting just in case OP is not a gay person.
They use the slur word in the forum.
There's a slur there that I choose not to read.
Thank you, George.
Anonymous, 12/8/19. Thanks for sharing.
This is in response. This is me responding to the guy talking about that they expected the album to be worse. That German album.
Experienced the full song you sent me and read what you said, and I will further look into this album in the Beiden McHacken and expand from this information as you also seemingly have. I also understand how you can relate what you're attributing to all of this and can confirm that you are also making sense to me and bringing me joy as everything is currently reacting with this statement, also bringing me joy, this expansion of knowledge, understanding, feeling, and expression.
Because, yeah, I appreciated people actually reaching out and discussing these things. And, like, of all places, 4chan is not the most welcoming community of ideas and things, right? Like, they love to troll around and joke around and stuff. And it was fun, you know, back in, like, middle school, early high school, but, like, that's probably still the people, you know, trolling on these forums. But, as I said in the last video, it was one of the few places that actually allowed this dialogue to happen. And then, surprisingly, seeing all the response to it and how long it actually lasted, it was just a funk-provided moment. And if you know any places where, like, this forum can open up and be more discussed, please send me that, because I would love to. Again, I'm seeking better, more peer review, and that seems to be difficult to get actual review. Though I did get it from 30 something people here in video to a degree. Okay, this next is in response again to the opening thread of Welcome to the Funk.
Anonymous, 12/8/19. I'm turning 30 soon, too. We are going to make it. Sending the best thoughts your way.
And now I'm 35. I wonder how old they are. Sending the best thoughts your way. We're going to make it.
Anonymous, 12/8/19.
This is in response to posting just in case OP is not a slur word.
I trust in what dude has to say. Maybe it's just me desperately seeking for some meaning, though. Anonymous,
This is me responding back to the person who said the slur as well.
12/8/19. Thank you for attributing. You are now a part of this history and current accessible information. I could indeed be interpreted as a gay person, as you suggest. So I am both and am not, while still being OP, as you are yourself and I am you. So if I or the funk are indeed a gay person, so such are you. And to clarify, I do not mean it as an insult, but as it has been used and we are learning to understand it, describable for every event. The future is gay person slur. The past is gay person slur as well. It is not. I can also tell you that through observation, that gay person is currently often used as a derogative term after existing as many other things before and after it. I can personally say that I do not agree with the negative usage of the word towards another application. As pattern shows that leads you to dismissing it, and you cannot gather its data, so whether I am a gay person or not, does and does not matter. It seemingly depends on the later understanding of this event or not. Our choice, for now or later, and also not. The future experience in data and learning is now currently here and there, or it is not, or even not yet.
Kind of what I was trying to get at there is, again, an overall theme of ad hominem, of dismissing by personal bias or belief, of just being like, whether I or anyone is under an influence or a certain gender or race or anything, if you just dismiss them for that cause, then there's probably an underlying problem there, and that's going to halt certain progresses and everything. Most likely, you are the one who is the problem. And then people feed that fear of racism, xenophobia, homophobia, any phobia, and it just puts people deeper into these states. And so what I am proposing is, how do we heal from that, I guess? What is the next step of moving beyond this? Because it is still a very prominent thing in our society. Recently, I think it was like a couple days ago, this lady, and we don't even know if this is a real thing or not, or if it was just planted to cause all this commotion and trouble. But this lady called a child the N-word, and it got filmed and it went viral, and people raised like $500,000 for this lady or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount of money for her to use a racial slur against a child. And so, I don't know. How do we... Is there a cure, and do people even want to be cured? And so, I don't know. It is a paradoxical dilemma that I'm just, again, bringing up and trying to engage in discourse on how we move forward together to reach a true overman. and Ubermensch. What comes after all of this? Okay, this is a response to I'm turning 32 soon, and we're going to make it.
Anonymous, 12/8/19. We will and we won't. Happy eventual birthday.
This is me responding to I trust what a dude has to say.
Anonymous, 12/18/8/19. This is one of the patterns I am expressing. You and I are formulating our equations together, and we have now currently reached a greater advancement. Your meaning is to exist, and then to question the existence, thus leading to expanding with the funk in every eventually calculable or relatable way. And now, at this point in time, we can choose to share that experience and information with each other or not. It is up to the all, but also very importantly, you. Anonymous, 12/8/19. So the true meaning.
This is in response to that, what I just said.
Is to learn and put that knowledge into effect. This sounds suspiciously like the basilisk.
And if you don't know what the basilisk theory is, if I recall correctly, it's been a while since I dived into the basilisk idea, but I'll bring it up just in case I need some help. Basilisk philosophy. But essentially, it's a thought experiment. Here, I can pull it up and just use the Wikipedia summary right here. Rocco's basilisk is a thought experiment which states that there could be an otherwise benevolent artificial superintelligence in the future that would punish anyone who knew of its potential existence but did not directly contribute to its advancement or development in order to incentivize said advancement. Now, in the case of the Funk Treatise and the Funk and everything, you are not going to be punished, at least by me, or hopefully by people who actually understand this information. It is not to punish each other. The basilisk would punish you for not feeding into it its existence. This is not that. This is built on foundations of love and empathy, understanding that the opposites also exist, and how do we coexist.
12/8/19. Anonymous. If anyone reading this.
And beyond coexistence, like, what is coexistence? Of sometimes we do have to set boundaries and everything, just like we said earlier in the treatise. Disliking transphobes is completely different than transphobes disliking trans people. And so there are boundaries that will need to be said, but let's imagine a reality where we take that thesis and antithesis and we can reach a synthesis that continues forward, and we can reach a reality where it doesn't matter who or what you are, that we can all just be there for each other. Is that possible? Who knows? The only way we can get there is if we try and even attempt to do that. And it seems that there's a lot of pushback against that attempt of just even attempting to love and have empathy and compassion. And so what do we do about it? If anything needs to be done.
Is interested in deeper exploration of the data I have collected with this study, please email me at whotothunkband@gmail.com, and I'll send you my current dissertation free of charge, unless you'd like to donate towards the idea and further support it.
Now, you can either email me at whotothunkband@gmail.com, or you can email me here for at the School of Funk, and that's with two E's, like the E School, because there's further meaning in that. But it's THEE School of Funk at Gmail, and I'll send you my treatise for free, absolutely, and we can talk about it. But it also, you don't even have to email me. It's available in the links below and everything. You can find it online for free anywhere you go.
It is exponentially more valuable that you request and gather the information and expand upon it than it is that I financially expand from it. But if you would like to support me in further expansion of this idea, you can do so if you so deeply desire. I will apply any financial or educational income sent to me for as long as I am able and currently is I exist. Money makes things happen faster here, the more you have of it. And I definitely currently do not have much of it because what I do is currently an observable pattern to many current individuals. Your choice on how to interpret and use that information is up to you. But if you are attempting to help me with education or finance or whatever it matters to us currently, I will also apply back to you, yin and yang, what goes around comes around.
And again, as I talked about earlier, I think that this information should be free. It shouldn't be gate kept behind a paywall or anything. It is just an open discussion thing. But if it does make money, I'm just going to use it to advance it further and advance my knowledge and increase the selfless around me. Yes, in a selfish effort. To, again, just increase the selfless. And so far, since I've started this treatise, I have seen that income come in, not just towards this and my other projects, but also just in life in general, like, and how well I'm doing right now. I mean, I paid all these people $50 each to do this reading. At the time of 2019, I would have never been able to. I mean, I could have done it, but it would have taken me a while to save up to. But it's just, in my opinion, a moment of the funk providing, of you give to the world and the world will give back to you. And again, there's no proof of that. It is just perhaps a coincidental pattern, but it's a beautiful one for me, at least. And hopefully, again, I'm not just selfishly taking that and keeping it. I'm using it in areas that I'd like to make a dent in the world, because people say you can't change the world, but everything and anything you do is changing the world and the universe. A really fun meme or a status post that someone once made that I like to consider to people is a lot of people don't think they have any effect on the world around them, or they think they don't have much influence on everything. But then the same people are familiar with the butterfly effect, and that if you went back in time and stepped on a butterfly, or just waving your hand through the air, the immaculate effect that that could have on the future. You're having that right now on the future that still lies ahead. Everything that you're doing at this moment is causing that butterfly effect at all times. You have an immaculate amount of change. You are powerful by being. And so, any profit that I get, I'm just going to spend back on reality, towards a future that I would love to see. But again, not just my own opinion of what I believe the future should be, whatever is helping, whatever is progressive, constructive. And that is still up to debate. And so I use it in the ways that I can. Eventually, I'd like to, again, we've talked about it before, eventually I'd like to open up like community centers and everything. I'd like to start a program that helps with international travel. I'd like to use it to establish a system of universal basic income through social media and connection. And I have all these concepts written down and worked out and constructed. I just don't really have the funding for them yet. And yet is the key word. So one day we'll work up to that and see where it goes and what happens.
Anonymous, 12/8/19.
This is in response to the last post of, if anyone reading this is interested, send me an email. And someone said this.
Send an email. Looking forward to it.
A couple people emailed me from this forum that night. It was like 2 or 3. And I included like one in the treatise. I might have included all of them. But the conversations didn't really go very far. Again, I think it's just because the length and the subject matter. But additionally, at the time of sending what I had, the understanding wasn't anywhere near as thought as this. I mean, again, it was just being presented, and the writing had just started. Now things are a little bit more clear, and they have more examples and everything. It's just a part of time and learning and understanding. But I believe that if this is the same person, we'll read their kind of email interaction later. Some of the emails I took out because there just wasn't really. You can find them in the earlier copies of the treatise. I basically have every treatise edition still saved. A bunch of them are on. Of the early ones are in a corrupted USB drive, and so those will need to be somehow extracted out of there. But they're still there, right? But if you are super interested in seeing those emails and everything, those are going to be the earlier treatises. I did over time scoop some things out that were just like, okay, this doesn't really need to be here. It's kind of just taking up space. This is already a long enough treatise. What does this really do here? And so for the people who didn't really respond and stuff, they just kind of got filtered out. They still exist in reality and history, a part of the funk, but not in this current edition. Okay, where are we? Okay, this is in response to, this is me responding to the person who said, so the true meaning is to learn and then put that learned knowledge into effect.
Anonymous 12-8-19. That is indeed a part of what I am proposing. And yes, what I am proposing relates to everything as well as nothing. We now have the data to share how to connect with it more and more. Your ideas, my ideas, our ideas, the ideas of the basilisk, all that are currently expanding together. And now the next thing to focus on is how to observe what comes next. That we are, in a way, already can through thought and time. If you're reading any form or extension of this proposition, you are indeed a very important part of it, and able to do all of what we understand we are able to do. The future now excites me more than ever. Now the I's and we's within the funk can functionally witness that the research I and we have applied from all past events and potential future events is in full effect. And it is mind-blowing. I seemingly have so far figured it out. A step at least. Anonymous 12.
I think you missed this unless it's not there yet. Yes. A step at least. And then April 26, 2022, I say a fraction of many steps is a whole collection. At the time, I did, right there I say I so far have figured it out. I didn't have it all figured out. No, that's not what I was kind of saying, but I was trying to relay how do I put this? That I felt purpose being pushed in the right direction. And that it felt, the understanding I had was that this move, I should move in this direction. That this has just certainly got blurry and distracted me. But that I should keep moving in this direction. Again, that understanding of the parability moment told me that, helped me understand that, of just like, these are the ideas. This is what I'm going to show you. This is what you're going to feel and understand. You're going to forget a lot of it, and that's why you need to like write it all down and put it out there and discuss it, and then just see what comes of that. And you're going to face the myriad of the spectrum of reactions and emotions to it, and we still are. And it's a wonderful experience. I'll tell you that. It's really cool. It's the coolest. It's the coolest experience. It's just, it's interesting. It really is. It can't be really cool. Cool is, super subjective. I don't even know if I'm that cool. Is this cool? Am I cool? Leave a comment down below if you think I'm cool. Let's keep going on this fraction of steps as a whole collection. This next comment is in response to sent an email, and I'm looking forward to it. This is me responding to them.
819. Can everyone see this? This is my idea and theory in full effect.
Full partial effect. of expansion and influence.
Something else is requesting the research. I have expanded upon it and will continue to grow forever and always, while also observably not.
And so, what I mean by like this is my idea in theory is how this information spreads and grows, and the reach of it, and the understanding of it, and how it continues through us. It found its way into me, and now it's finding its way into you, and is going to continue finding its way into other things. And so I see the relation to the basilisk in that, but again, it's not ever something that is going to punish you for not taking part of it. And if you use this information to do that, then you are not you do not understand what I'm saying here about this. That is something entirely different than these ideas. Yes, you could use it as funk and call it funk, but it will be a yaw of funk. A funk philosophy, let's say that. Because funk is everything and anything.
April 26, 2022. As of today, over 35 copies have been sent out, not including shared or online links. The viewed amount of this document is, of course, unknown. I have since last...
That was April 26, 2022, and then April 21st, 2024. I say this, I have since
lost count and stopped taking track of how many times this treatise has been sent out and or viewed online. There are also a few physically published copies of the June 16, 2022 edition and the April 9, 2023 edition. Here's what it looked like as of March 31, 2024.
And then if you'd like to see what it looks like now in the 7th edition, it's linked down below in the all my links. And if you're just looking at the 5th edition, that is what it looked like as of whenever the 5th edition was finished. I can't remember. Sometime within the last couple of years. I was going to say something, but okay. So when speaking of like reach and all of this and everything, it started super small. Like it started just on a laptop in my room of words. Now the ideas again had been forming over several years before that, and then finally I sat down, I wrote it, and then I opened the forum and I started sharing it to people who were interested, and then I started talking more about it with folks. While go out doing things, like again, I was still living as a basically a full time artist at the time, and just doing random things around Houston and talking about these ideas and sharing these things, and people occasionally be like, "Oh yeah, send me that," I'll check it out and stuff. And so the amount of times that this treatise in its various forms has been sent out a lot. And additionally, I share the links online every edition. I share them on, my main links page and stuff. Those have been viewed quite a lot. Additionally, one thing that I like to do occasionally with the editions is leave them in USB drives when I finish an edition with a bunch of other like little fun things and gifts of other things that I do. I put them all in like little small USB drives. I put them in little tiny jars, and then I hide them places. Who knows what happens to those? But I'm sure the occasional person finds one and checks it out. Though I haven't had anyone reach back out to me for any of those. So hoping one day that happens, because that would be pretty cool. Because it's a really fun and cool feeling that I'm sure some of you have experienced when like someone reaches back to you and they tell you about a moment that you had influence on them and everything. Like example for me is all the years of draw book. I still occasionally, at least once a year, have someone reach out to me online and just be like, "Hey, I drew in your book like X amount of years ago. Are you still doing it? Can I find my piece online and stuff?" And it's just a very cool, fun feeling. And then they talk about like what it did to them and how it inspired them, and that's cool. Inspiring people is very cool. I like to be inspired by others, and I like to inspire others. Okay, this is a response to the initial post. Welcome to the funk.
Anonymous 12/8/19. I made a sentient AI, but I got no one to make the actual code. I'm an autist for coding logics, but I don't know how to code anymore. So I just wrote this pseudocode. Sad. Anonymous 12819 response.
This is me responding to that person.
You've still created something, and if you so desired, you could continue sharing that information with others, and it will expand and expand until it becomes reality, or it does not. Feel free to share the information here if you'd like. That way, as is everyone exposed to this, they can then be closer to that. Thanks for being here and doing.
That is the person whose email I keep in the treatise, and that's going to be a little bit below when they email me. And again, all of this treatise is in actual time until I closed it off and basically ended the treatise. And then after that is when like I started doing like, well, even a little bit before when I was like editing before that, that's when I leave like different timestamps and inserts of time jumps of me going through this information. But overall, the entire treatise is in time order of its events happening.
Anonymous 12819.
This is in response to the initial post. I forgot to write on that. Page 80. I need to edit that. 1 second while I make note. Thank you for your patience and understanding. Page 80. Response text. I should hopefully remember what that means when I see it later. Okay. This is in response to the initial opening forum of Welcome to the Funk.
Response. Not much I'm doing, just doing X. So what is the meaning of life?
Then this is me responding to that person.
Anonymous 12819. Response: to do what you just did and are doing, and then to further interpret my and everyone and everything's response to it, back and forth forever as it continuously expands on the information it receives. Anonymous.
I think that kind of explains itself, but to yeah, I think that just
12819. If you are curious about the photo I use for this post, it is a piece I've created titled Want versus Need, and it was created using snapshots of my laptop glitching as I was editing photos for Drawbook. Looks like an advanced form of QR code or something, right? And now that I've seemingly synchronized that photo to this idea so that whenever you or someone in the future now experiences this photo, they know what it means and why it is and what it relates to or does not. It is a form of understandable language or knowledge and data transfer. I was going to use it for an album cover in my future, but I think it serves a greater relative purpose being this. And if I or you wanted to, we could continuously apply it to everything else. Cool, huh?
I linked the photo down below. It's a little bit blurry in the treatise. This is the updated version because I eventually did use it as an album cover. I added the hearts as kind of a link between the treatise and the album cover, but this is kind of what it looks like for those interested in looking at it. But you can see what I mean by how it kind of looks like a QR code and everything. And all of these sections that you see kind of like trimmed out were basically various glitches when I was editing photos for the website of Drawbook. And I was like, these are really cool and unique because it's a glitch. It's something just messing up and happening. I was like, I like the way this looks because it's a rare moment. You know, this isn't supposed to be here. I'm going to take a snapshot and use that. I've also had a few other projects, like in one of the Drawbooks when I worked at the rodeo in the mailroom. Occasionally, the stickers that you would have to print off with all the addresses and the shipping labels and everything, every once in a while, it would glitch out and do this like really cool barcode kind of sticker. And I have all those in the Drawbooks, and I always thought those were really interesting too, because it's just this random event of glitchness that would have not been otherwise, and I enjoyed saving those moments. But Again, kind of like I say, this is kind of like this QR code to where, like, if you ever see it, hopefully in the future, you'll be able to, click on that image or use that image, and it'll take you to this information and everything. Or it'll take you to the album, which will link you to this information. The last track on the album, and I've talked about this a little bit before earlier in earlier pages, is basically the first recorded conversation of me discussing these ideas of the funk to some people that I was in improv with at the time, and we used to hang out after class and either write funny music together or we would just talk and everything. And one of the nights, I wanted to talk about funk, and they allowed me to do that, and they gave me the time. And again, uh, just to commentate on my own feelings about that, it was very early in its learning stages. And so there is, even I, to this day, still feel a little bit of cringe about it because you can see just how excited I was. And I can definitely see how it can appear as manic and everything, but it's just passion. I was very passionate about what I felt and what I was experiencing. And it just felt like purpose. It felt like this is my purpose. And so that's where that passion comes from and where you hear my voice. And so then it shows the photo of want versus need, a nice blurry photo of it in the treatise.
There is a picture of want versus need.
There it is.
Response.
This is someone. This is someone responding back to you. Still created something. This is probably still the same person that made the
Anonymous
AI.
12/8/19. I never thought about it like that. Thanks, Anon. But I just fear someone might steal my AI. You see, I made this in honor too, and I fear someone might steal it.
And I just said probably this is absolutely the same person. Just wanted to make that clear. This next response is if you are curious about the photo, talking about the QR code and glitch and stuff. This is someone responding to that.
Anonymous 12/8/19. I like the way you think, Anon.
Thank you.
Response Anonymous 12/8/19.
This is in response. This is me responding to the person who was like, "Oh, I never thought about it like that. That they created something, and that they have the ability to share it if they want to or not."
Everything eventually will and won't, though. It already is so, or becoming so. So you can either keep yes and provide more information to the funk, or you can keep doing what you were doing or thinking you were thinking. Currently, I'm observing you to be doing both, and eventually all or not. Makes me happy.
And what I mean by observing them to do both, they chose to interact with this information, and I saw them, reaching some understanding and having some interest. But then they, in their interest and sharing, they were like, "I made this thing, but I don't want to share it," and that's still up to them. But uh, as you see in here, I suggested maybe you should share it and see what comes of it, see what happens of it. And they, I believe, in our email discourse, I believe they did share that with me, but it is beyond my comprehension. I am not a. I wish I was computer literate, but I am probably only slightly above average,
Happy that you're choosing to further understand
if not just average. This makes me happy that you are choosing to further understand.
and then let that fear prevent you from approaching what we are discussing and doing. Whatever we choose to do or not, it is still going to happen. You can share what you are mentioning, or something can and will eventually steal or be able to access and interpret it, whether by choice, force, or persuasion.
Kind of like where we're at with terms and service conditions and everything. Everything that you share on Facebook becomes property of Facebook. Now, in the music world, what's happening with a lot of music labels for the for the most, I guess, the independent artists and everything. Um, and I don't mean like people who can afford to have their own independent label. I mean like artists like me and maybe you. We're we get, pressed into these like labels like and producers like CD Baby or Tune DistroKid or TuneCore and stuff. And what's happening now with those is without our permission, these companies and these streaming services, kind of like Spotify and others, are going to start using our music to train AI to make music. Uh, and so you can share things, right? But eventually, something might use that to do something else, or eventually, something might steal or be able to access and interpret what you've done, whether by choice, force, or persuasion. Another example is like how AI is using um, all the photos of the internet and everything to basically make its whole database. And a lot of people are upset by that because the artists who made all these works and everything are now just being shoved into this giant congealed substance of AI, and then their work is being used in their likeness. And so we're still within the ethical and moral debate of is that right or wrong, and we'll see where that discussion, how that continues, because it's definitely not over.
And I
Uh, whether by choice, force, or persuasion, and then April 26, 2022, I say or funk connection. This is me responding to the person who said, I like the way you think, Anon.
you. I see that you understand, and that excites me more and more.
This is in response of your response is an example of a denial to the person who uh, used the slur.
I'm going to choose not to read the next one. The next final.
What it says, I'm not really sure why George didn't read this, but that's okay. That's just what happens. This is just someone responding to that, and they're saying, let's play a game where we slap each other. You go first. Wow, you slapped me, but I win because I got you to do it because it's my game and I like being slapped. I wish they expanded a little bit more. I kind of get what they're meaning, but I wish they expanded more on like why they were saying this and what it was actually in relation to. And then, in response to everything eventually will and won't, though.
Part that I am reading anonymous 12/8/19. Aye, aye. All right, I'll share it with you. But, well, I have to get to my PC and I'm not home, so it'll take like a day or two. I will also make a visual representation for easy understanding. This stuff, despite not using neural networks, is quite complicated network of databases and variables. Can I reach you somewhere else, or should I find this thread again someday? That is the end of page 80.
And they reached out and they said.
Okay, I just wanted to follow up with a quick peer review of what I just read.
So here are George's thoughts, of course. That goes without me saying.
It's very interesting stuff. Sort of very zen in my mind. The idea of being and not being at the same time, the yin and the yang, literally was mentioned. So I think it's an interesting thought process. I'm not really sure beyond that if I have anything more profound to say, other than I always think it's a good idea to try and share ideas in a way that's not condescending or mean or cruel, but truly to listen to each other and to try and find some common meaning and understanding, no matter how strange it may seem or different it may seem. So that's kind of my take on it. Like I said, a lot of it is an interesting sort of mind exercise about being and not being and existing and not existing, and sort of how words sometimes are not really adequate to capture those types of thoughts or feelings, but simply being and existing can help us learn from each other. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And also learning how to being existence being in existing is important, but then also learning how to be in exist and what that means to each of us and everything. And then, just like George was saying, sometimes people will use these opportunities of being in existing to react negatively and to others and things with hate and blah blah blah. And then some do the opposite, where they try to understand and everything, and both are really a challenge. It's really a challenge to want to understand people who hate you, right? Because they're probably not going to continue to want to understand you, right? Are people who want to not even hate, just people who don't want to understand you. They What is the purpose of trying to talk to someone like that? And that is debatable. That's the jazz of stepping into the unknown, of compassion and everything. And sometimes that's too much for people, depending on their experiences. And depending on the situation and the people. It's a whole spectrum of situational things. Um, but I agree that in my opinion, I think that when we take the time to sit down and do these things and actually hash them out, there is progress to some degree. Maybe that person, maybe both of us don't change, right? But maybe this information reaches someone who it does affect and it changes them. Hopefully in a progressive way more than a non-progressive way. But either or, that you're going to have influence and effect. You are the butterfly effect. Uh, and so that is pages 71 through 80. Thank you again, George, for reading pages 71 through 80 of this funk treatise and sharing your thoughts. Thank you again for being here, the listener, the watcher, the reader. All of you, I love you. In case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. The funk provides. Peace.